there's a lot going on here. Should I play this? My favorite. All right.
Oh, shoot. I am not signed in as...
We are live. Whew. Wow. Let's see.
This is us? We got a logo. Whoa, look at that logo.
Yo, what up? Hey, Eric. Hey, Kevin. What's going on, everybody?
We made some technology upgrades.
Happy
new
Monday.
software. That's right.
We'll see.
You can see
whole
the
thing could
look.
fall
Hold on a
apart.
second. You can see the front of the computer here.
Oh,
That's cool.
is that okay?
No.
New software. You just lean it back. Lean it back, man. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Alexander. Couple things. Yeah, we're here to talk optimism in a world where there is so little.
A bit hot on the audio, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are sorting all this out today. Thanks
Fantastic.
for putting
We
up
appreciate
with us.
it. Wow. Got Eric, we appreciate it. Yeah, let's see. We've been cooking up some new logos. What do you guys think of this? Back to the palm tree.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm not a part of this process.
We just
Good logo.
Ian wants
Thank
like too modern stuff, too cool for school, too design oriented. I think we just go palm tree straight down the center. Why not? All right. I'm going to get rid of these little I'm going to get rid of the little things here. Let's see here. What do you say we get cooking? Are you all ready? We got some people in the chat there. Remind me tomorrow.
Jim, the name may be changing. You're right.
Yeah.
Dynamite Palm Tree. I
Tropical
like that.
MBA, the name maybe.
Weren't you guys moving away from the Tropical MBA to the TMBA? That's what I thought too. And then one day Dan just showed up and he started using Tropical MBA again. And he had a great argument for it. And we'll see.
Half measures is my point. Half measures. You either get off it or you get on it. What are you going to do in the middle? Knows what you're talking about.
All right. Thanks for putting up with us, guys, these last 2 minutes as we're getting this technology sorted out. We are using Ecamm now as our software.
Yeah.
And we have a Logitech camera, which I found on Nextdoor. Nextdoor is like a neighborhood app. Similar to Craigslist, they have like a classified section. And it was on there for... $65 and these things they're
there's
toilet
paper
toilet paper short and video cameras are short right now, and so I saw this thing on Nextdoor and I thought, oh my gosh, can't believe it. So we jumped in the car, ran 25 minutes across town, bought this Logitech, and we're super excited about it.
So here we are. So today we're going to play a little game. A lot of things have changed in our lives and our businesses since the COVID virus expressed itself globally, so to speak. I mean, it's taken over, and a lot of things have changed for us. We're doing the elbow bumps and stuff, but in business as well. And what we're going to do is have a little game of yay or nay. We're going to put ourselves out the hypothetical date of January 1st, 2021, and we're just going to go through our thought process of what trends might stick and what trends will be reversed and so go back to normal, so to speak, and what things might change forever. So
it is a game. It's fun, but I think the reason we're doing it is to try and figure out what's really going to survive in our businesses and our lives. Like, what are some of the patterns and trends that are going to emerge, and how can we calibrate for it?
Yeah, and one of the before we get into that, so we're going to invite Noah Kagan onto the show to help us out with that. We've got about 8 different things we want to discuss. One of the questions for the day, and something I've been texting around with, we've been talking here, texting with y'all, is how has pricing changed? The pricing that everybody talks about right now is the marketplace. So the value of stocks and bonds and stuff like that. I'm a little bit more interested in how pricing's changed in your niche, how pricing's changed in your hobbies, housing. We saw Airbnb. Like, one of the things that occurred to me is I've been looking for housing here in Austin, Texas. And as of today, when I first showed up 2 months ago, Airbnb is a very liquid market. So it's not like maybe even cars and homes take longer to adjust their prices. So
yeah.
In terms of Airbnb, I can stay in Austin right now on a day-to-day rate at the same price as a 12-month lease 2 months ago. So you're seeing Airbnb prices track right away with the economy, whereas when you look at like high-end homes or cars, what you're seeing is two things. Number one, people putting more inventory onto the market at yesterday's price. And the second thing you're seeing, I think, is people not adjusting to the new reality yet.
Again, it's like these assets are lagging indicators, the ones that are especially hard to move in 30 to 90 days, like houses, Airbnb, it's literally as easy as going into the interface and just changing the price overnight and trying to attract somebody. So,
and I guess that's why people are, so excited to watch the market every day, because at least it's information about what's happening, where I can say emotionally it can be more frustrating to follow these lagging indicators, because you're trying to like figure out what's going through people's minds. I can emotionally sense like these kinds of high dollar assets and businesses, and whether it's like an FBA business that you built for 3 years, or whether it's a beautiful home on the top of the ridge or whatever.
Yep.
This idea that you're just going to adjust to a new reality and fire sale the thing at a 20% discount, I don't think's really settled in. Except to those highly liquid markets like the stock market and so on. Cool. So we'd like to hear from y'all if you've seen any of these kind of indications, because I think, we're just hungry for this information as entrepreneurs, like what's going on, what are the trends, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's see if we can buzz Noah in here.
Let's buzz him in.
All right, let's see here. I'm going to buzz him in. I'm gonna buzz him in, see what happens. Can you guys hear the ringing? Mr. Kagan.
Mr. Gentleman.
Oh, nice.
Oh man, okay. So let's see. I'm still adjusting to the tech here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna toss a little small Noah onto the screen. Can you guys all see that?
I can't see anything.
No, you should just be
You can't
hearing.
see anything, but
We're not gonna
just trust that your beautiful face is on the screen right now.
All right, so let's do this. So here, hold on. I'm just gonna add Noah to the screen here so y'all can see. Hold up a second.
Awesome.
Let's do this. Can we see this screen?
No, we're using that Ecamm. Are you familiar with the software? Maybe you can come over and help us out.
There's Noah. Noah, say what up to everybody.
Yes.
Say
what
hi.
up, everybody?
Show us your
It's
shirt.
your boy, Rabbi Can't Lose.
Give us your shirt.
Dude, this is literally the only... So this weekend, I did spring cleaning. I like basically just going through everything in the house and throwing away or donating what I don't need. And there's like only one shirt I kept. There's only one shirt I really need. You know what shirt that is.
One shirt and one hat.
We appreciate it. For the sake of audio quality, I think this might work a little. This screen might work a little bit better. Who are everywhere across America are using this situation as leverage to renegotiate their retail real estate contracts. And the question is this a permanent change, or is sort of retail America going to bounce back?
No, I think you probably have firsthand experience about this because we were talking about it last week. What's going on with your lease?
Legally, I don't know if I want to talk about it on air, but I think what's interesting, and I'll talk a little bit about it. I think most commercial and retail agreements are more than 1 year. So that's part of the challenge. With Airbnbs or residential, you have like 1 year or less commitments. So I think what's going to happen moving forward is that a lot of these people are just going to have smaller footprints. But I think I think people will have to pay their leases eventually in the next year or two. But moving forward, I think they'll say, well, can we have less space? Like I went to a coffee shop, Dan, Radio Coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there a few days ago, and they literally were just outside with a table, and then you ordered there, and then they went inside and brought out the coffee, and you start thinking about like how much actual revenue or dollar per square foot do I want to be paying relative to how much I can make out of it. So I don't think it'll go away. I just think things are going to have to shift. But I think there's going to be a huge backlash of people like myself and a lot of other companies who say, yeah, why am I paying so much for this commercial space? We don't need this much.
One of the things, this work from home movement, right? I mean, I think this is going to have to affect the this kind of retail space, especially for commercial environments. I think a lot of people they figured out that they can probably work from home now. So you got Noah's office, right? So what does Noah's office turn into? Does it turn into a place,
great
Noah?
question.
Does it turn into a place where you guys come and meet once a week, maybe? Does it just not exist at all?
I've asked the team. No, I asked the team too over at AppSumo. I said, "Hey, do you guys want to keep the space? Can we get rid of it?" And it depends, right? If you have children, a lot of people are like, "Yeah, I like working from home, but I need to get out once in a while." So it seemed like what everyone wants, and Ian, you guys were one of the first people to do this. Is like, how can you have relatively some hybrid model potentially? Like you guys were early on remote, but I think people like face to face, the social aspect.
Yeah, totally.
Then there where 2 days a week you go to a smaller space. The thing I wonder though, the thing I'm really curious, the longer that we have this quarantine work from home enforced on us, the more likely we're going to be able to say, do we really need the office of having that?
Yeah, I totally agree. Look, my intuitional spidey sense on this commercial real estate America, I was preparing this rant about, I just don't understand how we can have all these mattress firms on every single corner in every single city in America. I don't understand how everybody's making the rent. I don't understand who shops there. And when you just go down Strip Mall America and how much space we have, look at our malls. They were already, the fundamentals didn't make sense before all this came through. And I think not only is this going to dramatically impact the habits of consumers pre-COVID, and so I think this is going to be a lasting change. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities in repurposing retail space in America, whether it's malls, whether it's strip malls. I think that the remaining marketplace that was still using these kinds of shops or hanging on or enjoyed going to a place like Mattress Firm or Golf Galaxy or whatever it is, I think that those people's habits are going to be changing.
Yeah. No, I can tell you're a big fan of Mattress Warehouse. You shop there?
So the two things that I think are interesting about that is, Dan, have you ever looked up the economics of those mattress stores?
No, I'm sure they're fantastic, huh?
So I believe the reason that there's so many like Mattress Firm and Mattress Express or whatever is I think that it's all on consignment. So their rent is actually pretty small and they don't have to pay for any of the inventory. And so the margins for those businesses, it's like basically very cheap or low cost to actually open that stuff up. So there's something interesting. I think the second thing is Airbnb and Uber and Stripe and AppSumo and Zoom came out of out of the 2008 recession. So I think with office space and retail, Dan, you said it exactly. This stuff is going to get repurposed because the thing with office space is it's not open at nights. It's not open on weekends. So I wonder how that space can get a better value out of it all week round.
Noah, so yay or nay? We're all going to pitch in our thoughts here. And the idea is January 1st, 2021, will these things exist? So the idea is retail, commercial real estate, rapid contraction, yay or nay?
Yay.
I say yay. Dan?
Yay. Number 2, frugality and personal financial temperance, guys. Everybody has been looking at that budget. We've been stopping with the expensive drop-in yoga classes and instead doing it online with a DIY mat. We haven't been buying RVs. We're building them in our backyards. And, there's just been a push and a contraction towards more DIY, towards, hey, how did I get myself in this bad situation? An increased interest in frugality. Is this a trend that's going to stick?
I'm just going to steal one of these points here because you just mentioned it. You already mentioned my point. It was down below. So now I'm just going to have to talk about it, which is basically, and no, I don't know if you've ever done this. I know you do this with certain things. These like $35 drop-in yoga classes, you're like downtown. You're like, oh man, I think I need to work out today. I'm feeling a little bit stressed out. I'm just going to drop into be a trend that is here to stay.
I think that your thing about the soul cycle stuff is it's also, you're not the client, right? Like you don't do Orange Theory, but people like classes. I think at home, my mom goes to Body Pump. Do you guys know Body Pump?
No. It sounds amazing.
Is this like Curves 2.0 or what?
Yeah, jazzercise. No, but she actually misses the classes and she's trying to do it at home, but it's just not the same. And so someone like her will go back to the classes. And other people, I think there'll be other ways to spend that money.
Yeah, I
What do you
think
guys
your
think?
idea about like shifting the money other places and then it coming back is probably true. So number 2, frugality and personal finance pullback. I say nay too. I say like January 2021, if things are going well, people are spending the money. Dan?
I say nay. 8 out of 10 things that Americans invest in aren't actually investments. They're just products cleverly positioned as investments. So no, I think we'll continue to keep our money flowing. I don't think that that's necessarily throwing shade at the American way. I think that's just how the economy works here and how we're set up to take advantage of it.
How have you guys thought about your money, or how have you guys been more frugal or less frugal during this time period?
Well, I think it's just not possible to spend as much, honestly.
Yeah,
because
enforced frugality.
you're not
Enforced
going out.
frugality.
Yeah.
I want to spend money on sushi, and I cannot. I cannot right now. All right, number 3 point, guys. Again, we are talking about trends that are happening because of COVID and whether or not we think they'll persist 1 year from now. The third trend, guys, is WFH. This is work from home, which is a term I learned about like 2 weeks ago. I never heard it before. Ian, you've presented a new candidate.
WFA, work from anywhere.
WFA. That's what hashtag WFA. By the way, where did this come from? Like, I've been on remote job boards for 4 years studying this industry, and WFH just sort of curveballed into our I don't know, man. Remote work. I guess that's like remote work doesn't work for people. Okay, guys. So before this whole thing began, 5% of Americans worked from home. WFH'd, not necessarily WFA'd. So the question is this trend going to continue, and in which ways? What say you, boss man?
I kind of it has to. It has to. I think that people this goes hand in hand with the commercial space, with the overhead costs, with the lifestyle. I mean, just imagine, when we quit our jobs and we weren't driving 45 minutes a day every day up the coast to California, how much of that time we reclaim back.
Yeah.
And I think there's a certain percentage of the population that says like, oh, how am I going to listen to podcasts if I don't have an hour commute each way? That's not me.
Yeah.
I'll figure out a way to listen to them.
All right. Sorry, go ahead. I'm just kidding. This like California commute is like ticking me, man. I gotta go.
Yeah, I think guys like Noah, and Noah, I want to hear your thoughts, are going to say like, you know what? Half the people didn't like coming to our office anyway, so why am I going to keep this expensive overhead? We'll just rent a Regis space once a month or whatever it is.
Yeah. Or just keep a party space.
But to Noah, to your point about your mom wanting like socialization, like I'm hearing that from the older generation. Maybe you're hearing it too, which is like, oh, I really miss the social aspect of the office. My friends were never at the office, so that's always a curious thing for me. What say you, Noah?
Well, I think what you sparked, which is a really interesting point, is there's work from home and then work from anywhere, and those are two very distinct things. Because work from anywhere is remote in the way I hear it, and I don't know if the work from anywhere, how much that'll get increased or not. I definitely think work from home will be it, but I don't know if a lot of people will say, hey, I can have even more freedom and work from Europe or South America or wherever.
Interesting point.
What are people going to have to do to get their homes ready? Because when you walk in my home, there's like a television, a child. I mean, there's like not a dedicated space. I mean, do people have enough room to work from home effectively?
Well, I think that the two things that I've been thinking about is, number one, I think development, like residential development, will make that like a central part, right? So any house that gets built in the future will have an office. Now it's kind of like an extra room, but it'll be a space and it's separate, and maybe there's a nice window. I actually think WeWork might start working, but just in a different capacity. It's not WeWork, maybe it's some other format where people rent out their rooms and houses as offices or something like that.
By the way, WeWork's not paying their rent right now.
So if that happens, I mean, Noah, you're like, oh, okay, so there's going to be these dedicated offices in these residential spaces, and then isn't it like a slippery slope? Aren't we just like, well, it would be more efficient if we just put a bunch of these together in like one coffee machine, and it'd be cheaper. And isn't that how you get an office again?
Full fucking Lion King circle where we just have offices again. No, I mean, the thing, I think what's also interesting is like home office equipment has gotten so much more improved, right? Like you used to go to an office because they had the expensive copy machine. My dad used to sell copiers. And then they had, a water thing, right? The water fountain, whatever the hell they call them. And now, you can pretty easily and affordably have that at home. And I think a lot of remote companies are even starting to supply it, right? Like they'll give you stipends and stuff like that to do it at your own house.
Yeah.
I think part of it is like, how do you create discipline at home? And then how do you also make sure that you get out of the house? I know there's been some days where it's like 6:00 and I'm like, I don't think I've left this table.
What I'm hearing is a lot of like relatively superficial problems compared to the costs of maintaining an office, paying for it, and ensuring and getting there in the first place. Like, to me, trying to solve the social problem by gathering everybody 8 hours a day in an office is like, trying to get a screw in with a hammer. It's like, okay, but there's better ways to solve social issues than let's like have a space that we all sit in all day long and stare at our computers together. So personally, I think
Dan, tell us how you really feel.
I think this is going to be a lasting change, Mr. Kagan, and I'll tell you why. Because one of my favorite frames, I was on a Dynamite Circle member call the other day, and a member chimed up and said, one of my favorite lenses to look at this is that, this is just a lot of us being pushed 24 months into the future in terms of tech adaptation. And look, we've come on this podcast for 5 years and said, why isn't everybody remote yet? Why isn't everybody work from home, WFH yet? And I think the reason is it was just a matter of time, and that this is a better way to organize businesses. It's a better way for both the businesses and it's a better way for the employees. And so I think this is going to be a lasting change. The writing's on the wall. This is better. Yes, it has challenges. How am I going to work from home without a distraction? Like, we'll figure that one out, guys. We're going to get through that.
No, you guys are effectively working from home. The Sumo team, Are you seeing productivity drop or increase? Do people like it? Do they not?
Yeah, so a few things. One, people seem to like it. A few people, and I won't name them, but they were like, I don't ever want us to be remote. I don't want us to work from home. I asked them a week ago, and they're like, dude, it's actually way more productive. So I would actually think it's more job specific. So I think developers should always work in cages or in caves. Sorry, not cages, but like when they don't have people like me interrupting, which I'm the bad guy. You can't run video. When they could actually just do the things that they're great at, they work amazingly. I think the other thing, Dan, that you said, and I know you hate offices, but I think what's interesting with offices is where did they come from, right? And then maybe they have not evolved as fast as other things have evolved, right? Like the big trend in offices that we is open, right? You guys seen that in all the hipster startup companies? And so I wonder, Dan, you're right. In the next phase, it's like, all right, it's actually just at home, or it's more isolated, or it's more flexible. I'm not sure exactly. Look, I think it's at the end of the day, the way we were talking about it initially is at our company, we spend $40,000 a month in our office. And then the question is very simple. It's like, are we generating over $40,000 in value in the business? And as of now and in the future, that's really debatable. And I think a lot of other people are asking that same question.
Yeah, I think the question that WFAs have been asking for a decade now is exactly that. Where did it come from? And it starts even before the walls. It starts with like how much time you need out of people and what you need them to be doing. And so one question I have is, well, where did 9 to 5 come from? Where did 7 to 3 come from? And this schedule isn't
totally.
This schedule doesn't resonate with a lot of folks on our team, I know, who are tasked with creative production. And it's really tough to like sort of just sit there for 8 to 5 and be creative. That's not quite how it works. And so, yeah, it definitely gets like complicated and fragmented. But all right, so we got to move it on.
Alex on the chat here says many of the companies, and he's running our remote job board, so he's in touch with some of this stuff. Many of the companies that are forced to adopt work from home are not adopting remote culture. They're keeping just as many meetings and not trusting their staff to manage their time well. I see this as an issue for sure. It's like, we've been doing this for a long time. All three of us experimenting with these different ideas. And I think this because that's what we do is we just experiment like all day long. And all of our employees and people around us are usually super annoyed by it. They're like, dude, you guys change your mind all the time. You're always doing shit. Like, can't we just settle down? But I think Alex is right, which is basically these companies are going to have to adapt their culture and their process if they're going to survive this new remote working thing, because it is different. You don't need to have as many meetings, but at the same time, there is still value in bumping into people in the water cooler.
Totally. Totally. All right. So,
I think can I
Go
add
ahead.
one other
Sure.
thing I've observed? So I think all of us, if you're in a company of 5 or less people, it's very easy to be remote, right? And it's easy for us to kind of circle jerk and be like, oh, this is the coolest, and all these people are missing out. I think what's interesting is the large companies, right? Like the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Morgan Stanleys. Like I called my bank last week to make sure my money was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yo, where are you, by the way? She's like, I'm at home.
Interesting.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. Are you? And so
Are you logging
she
into
wasn't,
my
and I was like,
account
well,
from home?
yeah, she is. She
Yeah.
is, which, I mean, in every country, I think there's a lot of restrictions around that. But they were able to work from home. And so that, to me, is where like big shifts in the economy and just like in office culture, everyone can now work from home.
All right. Let's move on to the next point, guys. Number 4, again, yay or nay, people stopping international travel and going to business conferences. Is this going to be a lasting effect or a short-term blip? Short-term blip.
I'm going short.
Lay
yeah.
it on me, boss man.
Well, as soon as we can, as soon as there's a cure, as soon as they figure out how to take your temperature, as soon as there's a test, I think we're going to resume to normalcy. The handshaking things. I mean, look, I don't want to get too philosophical here, but like, I'm just going to go out and say it. Like this is the way that the population gets cleansed a lot of times, like through viruses. Like this is the shedding. A lot of these people that are. I'm sorry, but I mean, if we're not going to shake hands.
What do you mean by cleanse?
Yeah, this is not. We're not talking. We're just talking about age. I'm really backing myself into a corner here.
All right. Moving forward.
But if we want to stop shaking hands and things like that, I think that's totally fine. I think it will slow these things down. But if you don't start with a hug, how can you end up in bed together? That's my question to you guys.
Well, so Ian, yesterday I went to a buddy's house and we had some pizza. We sat 6 feet away, and so we didn't walk in through the front door. We had to walk in the backyard, and then we sat away from him. But I will say one of my favorite things about it is when we had to leave, I didn't have to shake his hand or hug him or figure out what to do. And I was like, it's like not tipping. I just felt it was just so easy. But I think business stuff, I want to say short term, but I want to just challenge you guys and say long term. Like, I just wonder if people now are going to be able to have those kind of connections or just be like, hey, do you want to get on a Zoom call versus, the expense and time of flying and dealing with all the hassle of travel of some of these things. I just think
cool. The lack of a vaccine will call to every individual somewhat of a moral question. Like you just pointed out, Ian, like, like these are devastating effects on society. So it really is your plan to like get 400 people together and fly in from all around the world? Like I can see maybe going on a trip to visit a family member, to visit a monument, but when it comes to like conferences and stuff, I think you have to have a higher level of protocol in place. And the question really remains, like, what's that protocol going to be? How are different nations going to get on the same page about it? And whether that happens by January, I'm kind of a nay-ish on that. But I hope not, certainly, because these are things that I really value. The Zoom thing is cool, but certainly in small groups, not in these bigger groups.
Kevin Marshall in the comments has agreed, hard to network over drinks on Zoom. I think he's right.
Well, I heard guys that someone in the Dynamite Circle was saying, we had a call with like 5 people and it was fine, but like when it got to like 9 people, it just didn't work. Like certain people just have to mute themselves out of the thing in order for a conversation to happen. And so I agree with Kevin there. All right, so you got a yay, we got a middle ground on Noah, and I'll be the nay. So number 5. What do you guys think about the trend of people using this as an opportunity to start an online business or make money online? Noah, I know you had a long career of inspiring and helping people make a side income or a career online. Do you think that this is going to be like a moment in time when like a big percentage of the population gets turned on to what we're up to?
Yeah, I think it's different than what happened in the past 5 years, though, because the past 5 years, Shopify, I think, was the kind of catalyst to get everyone online.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was like easy to manufacture stuff from China, and Shopify made it easy to just put stuff on and drop ship, and Amazon definitely blew it all up. So I think the next wave is going to be more in like the service provider, and then digital information, right? Like everyone's taking their schools online. I think more people that are in the DC or experts in different categories are going to say, hey, is there digital templates, digital icons, digital courses that I could be creating and selling where I'm not as dependent on manufacturing issues.
Right.
So I think that'll be kind of the next shift in that. And then I think the second part is I think these local businesses that haven't had as much of an online presence will probably be experimenting more with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're definitely seeing that here in Austin with people getting clever with delivering all sorts of things or different versions of their restaurant or their wares. And I've seen, like these local breweries, for example, that used to just rely on people showing up, now all of a sudden upping their internet game in terms of getting growlers out to people and stuff like that. Certainly been a big interest of mine is access to quality beer while on lockdown.
I want to get back to the core of this point when you wrote it though, Dan, and I think this is this time going to actually cause more people to start online businesses?
I think so, because there is a gateway drug in the house, and I'll tell you what that gateway drug is. You ready for it? Work from home. And here's the thing. The moment that you become a remote worker, the existential question must be asked, how close am I really being a freelancer right now? And then the moment you're a freelancer, all of a sudden, you're actually creating a product out of your work instead of out of your presence. And that is a gateway drug to entrepreneurship. And so I think you combine the fact that you've got everybody taking this gateway drug, which is, by the way, why employers are so scared about it. Let's just be real talk about it. Your employer wants to control your time, and it's harder to do that when they're not watching your body. And then the second thing is, the time thing. All of a sudden, I don't need 8 hours to finish my job. I only need 4 hours to finish my job. So a smaller percentage of the population, of that working population, is going to use their excess time to be industrious. And that's entrepreneurship. It's very hard to be an entrepreneur when you spend 10 hours a day making sure you show up at the water cooler in the right pair of khakis and doing high-level work. We commonly say, if you want to find the person who's never going to be an entrepreneur, find the person with a really damn good job, because that means that they're spending a great deal of time earning a great deal of money, and it's hard to walk away from and start from scratch back at home. But that's the reality for a lot of people right now is they're back at home, they're starting from scratch. And to me, that is really fertile ground for starting an online business.
What say you, Noah? Do you think this is going to produce more entrepreneurs or the same?
I think by choice, right? Like there's who knows how many people are unemployed. And I hope it's inspiration that people say, hey, I didn't really control my fate, right? Like my boss did, or this office did, or this company did. And I think, I was listening to this biography, and it was like, don't let a mistake go to waste. And I thought of it just like the same thing with this is don't let this quarantine go to waste.
Very cool. All right, 2 more guys. Yay or nay? Right now we're seeing a big trend of people wanting to get out of the city. Regretting that they've found themselves in a city, being in a worse position for it. Do you guys think that this is a trend we saw, this big trend sort of in America out of the cities sort of in the mid 20th century, and then people rushing back to the cities in the aughts? And now are we going to see a trend of young professionals wanting to move outside of the city? What say you, boss man?
Well, you guys know where my flag is staked, obviously, out of the city.
Yeah, we don't want to hear about you. Let us know your opinion.
Let me tell you 2 reasons why I think this will become more of a trend. I think we're talking to people in New York, and they're freaking the heck out about this, right?
Sure.
Like they're basically in this little box. I think everybody in a big city has come to the realization. If you haven't, let me just come to it for you right now, which is basically, if you live in New York City, your apartment actually has to extend throughout the whole city. Like you just don't live in your apartment. Like you spend your day at sushi, you spend your day at the gym, wherever you are. Like your world exists outside of your apartment. My world is very small. It exists on 2 acres right now, and I'm very content there. And that's the difference. Basically, is that like when you're in a city, you rely on the city to basically entertain you because your apartment's so damn small that it cannot possibly do that job for you. Yeah. So 2 things are coming to mind here. Autonomous vehicles. Noah has a Tesla. It drives itself. It's amazing. And then work from home. So and good internet. So with that, I think that I mean, for me, the choice is easy. Like, I want to live in a place where I can open the door and not have to see anybody, but then I can engage with them 20 minutes away. And I think maybe other people feel that way too.
Yeah, again, in terms of accelerating trends in the remote work space, Noah, one of the things we've seen is people leveraging remote jobs to live in secondary cities, to live in their hometown as opposed to like a city 4 hours away where there's a job available, to live with a partner who has some kind of passion or pursuit or career that requires them to be somewhere sort of non sequitur to what they're up to. And I've long thought, even before we were working on Dynamite Jobs, that the internet and work from anywhere, WFA, if you will, is an argument against cities. Now, there's obviously plenty of arguments for cities, but I do think it's an interesting force to ask. You know, one of my favorite quotes about cities of all time was this writer named Paul Tillich, who said, one of the core virtues of a city is it gives you access to strange. Well, couldn't you say the same thing about the internet and international travel and the ability to locomote without having to be at the same place every day? And so I do think that this will accelerate a trend of people questioning, why am I so attached to this city? And maybe I might reevaluate that. What say you, Noah?
It is interesting. I was trying to think about myself and friends. Like, one of my friends left New Jersey. I've had a few people literally in the past 2 weeks been like, hey, I'm moving to Austin right now, like during this pandemic. Lifestyle best. So I'm not sure that will actually change very much. I'm curious how if Airbnb will bounce back, right? And, you know, a lot of your audience and ourselves, we like living in multiple places throughout the year, but having a home base. So I guess I'm not sure the answer. I wonder if people will just change their home bases, but I don't think so. I think if you like being near the coast in California, you'll stay. You know, if you want to be in finance or, you know, big bank stuff, you're going to be in New York. I think if anything, maybe it'll get people to explore living somewhere else for some part of the year, but I think most people will just stay where they are.
Yeah, I got to disagree with my own point on this. I think that people, you know, once it's over, they're going to say, "Yeah, I love New York." It might be a little bit dangerous during a pandemic.
As much as the next guy. Yeah. All right, final point, guys, before we wrap up this episode. We've seen a huge drop off in handshakes, in daps, in high fives, low fives, whatever your style of engagement is with the hands. We're seeing no handshakes. Is this whole idea about touching of hands, is this a blip, or are we going to come up with some new mores to deal with the greeting?
Okay.
What does more mean? Because I love the word.
More would be like a societal moral value that's baked into our consciousness. And it made me wonder, by the way, do Japanese people bow to each other partially because of a consciousness of cleanliness? Might it be a bad idea in general? You know, there's this old wise tale. I don't know if it's true, but the reason that you would cheer somebody, if you're two kings meeting or whatever, two queens, you put up your scumps and you say, hey, I'm willing to exchange a little liquid with you so that if there's poison in my glass, it goes in yours, and we exchange, we drink Princess Bride style or whatever, and we both die together, we both thrive together.
Yeah.
Now, kind of gross on the one from one perspective. It's a little gross. Let's swap a little spit. You know, who knows where my hand's been all day long? Let's just dap it up. Make sure we exchange. Like my unknown. It's a huge sign of trust.
Well, you pass her on the challah, you pass her on the wine, right, Noah? Same thing.
I like how you shout out Judaism. Thanks, Ian.
What say you, Noah? And then I got a hot take on this.
I think it stuffs out. I think more and more just people aren't going to touch. And I kind of hope it stays, because then it's like, it's precious. It's like virginity. You just give it to the ones that matter. And then it's like, it's kind of nice not to have to touch everyone. And I don't have to worry, I don't have to think about it. So I do think it'll stick around, because I think people will just forever, not forever, but at least the next 100, 200 years be a little bit more cautious about that.
This is an interesting one for me, man.
Like namaste, put your hands in the heart thing.
I think we're going to be known as the Purell generation.
I think that would be unfortunate, obviously.
Yeah, a hell of a reputation to come out of, the great generation two before us come out, they win a world war. This is their legacy. It's like, man, Grandpa was such a brave guy. and we're gonna be grandpa washed his hands all the time. Like he seems a little worried about something. I'm not sure. We got a lot of medicine now to fix this stuff, and grandpa's still washing his hands all the time.
Well,
grandpa won't dap me up.
The older generation, it might be an indicator for us, because I'm talking to older people. They seem a lot less concerned about this, honestly, and maybe a little bit more morbid, which is basically, I was talking to one of my friends the other day. He's in his 70s, and he's like, look, man, like, this is around the time my generation like gets cancer, gets COVID, like things like that happen, And I think his point to me was basically like, yeah, I've like changed my habits a little bit, but like, am I willing to like sacrifice my last 10 years to like live in isolation and like, really change the way I like view the world? He's like, nah, probably not. He's like, I've made it this far. Like, if this is what gets me, this is what gets me. And I think that's a question we can all be asking ourselves, is like, do we want to stop like social interaction? Like, meaning like, do I want to stop hugging my friends? Or if you're European, doing the kissy on the each cheek, is it worth it? Is it worth it?
It's too early to ask. It's too early. It's too early to go there.
All right. So yay or
but
nay.
If you're over the age of 70, you can do whatever the hell you want at all times. So that's not for us to say. Noah, you have any parting shots? Thanks for joining us today on the live stream.
I love you guys. I'm curious, we're talking about the handshake. On that same vein, when do you guys think you'll start being okay having people over, or okay, even interacting with other people?
Yeah, I think we're all waiting for some like parting of the skies, And this is the thing, is like, I mean, who's going to make this decision for us? The government? Us?
It still feels
the internet.
It still feels like we're the comic book character that was carrying a stack of pancakes and it went up in the air, and no one knows where the pancakes are going to land. Like, I don't have any sense for the new normal of what things are going to cost, how business is going to proceed, what I'm allowed to do and not. These things just feel like this constant negotiation. But I don't think, Noah, that's really going to be the case 2 or 3 months from now. I think that there'll be a clearer sense for. Honestly, one of the biggest surprises to me is that there's not a clearer directive just now for what behavior should look like. Of course, we're not a very unified nation in terms of that. Some European nations, you're seeing a very clear directive of like, okay, like here's how you behave at a bar, here's how you behave in public, and I don't know. Once those things come out, I'd certainly feel more comfortable playing my part. I think right now I'm erring on the side of responsibility. I mean. I don't know. There's part of me that if I were not quarantined with people would want to like go out and like get my hands dirty, so to speak, with the problem. I think that would be, I don't know. It's just like a lot of uncertainty right now. So I'm in terms of just stay at home. And
who's making the rules for you, Noah?
Sorry, what was that, Ian?
Who's making the rules for you in terms of social engagement?
No, yeah, I think that's interesting. We're waiting for permission.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece of that is just how every week there's just been, I think for each person that's listening and for ourselves, it's like we're experiencing something brand new. It's like the first weeks we're like, what's going on? Stock market's crazy. Our company revenue's down. And then it's like, okay, we're home and there's enough groceries for everyone. And this week, I have a lot of people starting to say, if I'm not sick and I've gotten tested, I should be able to get back to work.
Yeah.
And so I actually think there'll probably be a rebellion. I think there's going to be a backlash that'll come out in the next month or so of people just being like, I'm not sick. I'm tired of being home. We should be able to go out and do these things.
Yeah. I mean, of course, the weird thing is and the counterintuitive
list from scratch. We're having someone come on and on Noah Kagan. You can just do youtube.com/okdork. So we're going to help him grow an email list live, which may or may not work.
Cool.
And then Fridays we're doing the variety show where basically just entertaining the WFA people of the world.
Very cool.
It's cool. Yeah, you had a magician on. Who's that guy that raps? Famous dude. Makes up his raps as he goes along.
Oh, dude, he's good. Harry Mack.
That's really good.
Unbelievable. But, dude, this Friday, I guess my mom is going to come do karaoke.
Let's see. We still got a few people in there. All right.
Sorry, guys. This is we're gonna figure out this technology for tomorrow. Thanks for you guys that stuck around. Looks like people are dropping like flies, Dan. We're probably going to end this and then make sure we come back strong tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thank you, guys.